Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Grounded, where you get real life topics from a biblical perspective. My name is Brian Boyd. Today's topic is writing the vision. And everyone, I pray you had an amazing weekend. Before we dive into this episode, per usual, please be sure to like and follow the Grounded Podcast, every platform you have to be listening on. With that being said, let's talk about writing the vision, okay? And this is something that has been on my mind for a little bit now. And in the midst of this whole journey of God walking me through learning how to manage my resources and becoming more disciplined in life, this is something that has been constant as well, because it's one thing to have a goal in life, but there's a whole nother thing to plan for that goal and make steps towards accomplishing it. And tonight, that's what I'm going to talk about, because we're in this society today where these things are so prevalent. We're all working towards something, and it even comes to a point of what people would call manifesting. Okay. And while I don't naturally disagree with manifesting, I think that it's taken out of context. And this is the thing, because you write a vision and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it's just supposed to come to pass. And while that is something that happens more or less in some form or another, because now that you see the things in front of you every day, you have a greater possibility of seeing them happen. Some things in life cannot be accomplished without having a plan towards doing them. Okay, so I may say, for instance, I may want to lose 10 pounds, and over time I may start to lose 10 pounds if I see this every day when I wake up as a vision for my life. Okay, I may start eating healthier, I may drink more water just because I see that, and then over time, naturally, because of making those decisions and seeing that every morning, I will begin to lose weight. But if I'm going on like a strict diet, all right, I'm trying to get ready for a bodybuilding show or something like that, I'm going to have to do a little bit more than just read that every morning. I'm going to have to put a plan in place. I'm going to have to be able to track my foods. I got to know what type of foods I'm supposed to eat. I got to know what to drink, what vitamins to take. This is a whole process that's going to take place, and that can only take place, and I can only get those things done effectively through having a plan. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about tonight, because as I mentioned before, it's great to have a vision. It's great to write stuff down and want it to come to pass. But at the end of the day, you have to do the work to get that done. And to do so, and to cover all of this, since this is grounded, I'm going to be coming from the book of Habakkuk. That's the way you pronounce it. Chapter 2, verses 2 through 3. And it reads that, "And the Lord answered to me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For the vision still awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay." And in these verses, everyone, we see that very, very popular piece that everyone talks about, and that is writing the vision and make it plain. And while that is important, there's so much more to go with this. But to touch on that, we're going to touch on that first point specifically. And the thing is, when it comes to life, when it comes to you going after what you want, you have to first create the vision. And that comes from the first part of that verse: write the vision and make it plain on the tablets. And here, you're basically writing down the things that you want to accomplish. So if you want to write books, if you want to create a podcast, if you want to attain a certain amount of money within a certain amount of time, you have to write all of those things down, okay? That's the starting point for everything that you want to do in life. And to be honest with you, that's the thing that makes it finally official, because you can have all of these thoughts in your mind, but until you put some form of action to it, then it won't take place, I'm telling you. And that's where the whole manifestation thing comes in, because it's like, yes, that's part of it. Writing it down puts it in front of you, and now you're able to take an action towards doing it. And that's the very first action, but there's so much more that goes into that. And when it comes to this specifically, you have to learn how to write down everything that you're doing. So you write down the list of goals that you want to complete. You write down the steps that it's going to take for you to get there. So in this case, you may need to identify the resources that you need, the people around you, the supplies towards accomplishing that. You may also need to write down how much time you expect each of these goals to take. And then last but not least, you have to write down the steps that are needed to accomplish that goal. Okay, because your goal is to make this thing as simple and straightforward as possible. Because as it says in the Bible, so many occasions, faith without works is dead. You can believe in it, you can hope that it comes to pass, but unless you put action towards the things that you believe in, there's a great possibility that they will not come. All right. And as people on here, I do not want y'all to fall into that thing. I do not want you all to have all of these big, all of these amazing dreams that you write down, and then you're not able to walk in those dreams because they're not taking the steps necessary towards doing that. And the only way to make sure that you're moving as close and effectively as possible is to write all of these things down, write all of the steps down towards accomplishing these things, and then taking action towards doing these things. All right. Moving along, though, one of the things that I also want to talk about here, just want to take like a short trip and talk about the concept of a eulogy, okay? And I know it's coming out of nowhere. It's coming from the deep end, but hear me for a second, all right? So I was reading this book from Miles Monroe talking about the power of vision. And one of the questions that he had in there was the fact that you should write down your eulogy. And for those who don't know, a eulogy is simply something that people would relate to or they would tell you about at your funeral. So you've left this earth and now they're at their funeral saying their words about you. And the eulogy is the things that they remember the most about you. And the thing that I've seen, even writing my personal eulogy, was that everything that I thought I wanted in life wasn't actually what I wanted, because the only thing I talked about in my own personal eulogy, even though it was like tear jerking, it just brought the fact of the only thing that I valued was God and family. Like none of my accomplishments was in there. None of the stuff that I wanted to ultimately do in life, none of the places that I expected to go, but it was simply God, faith, family. I kid you not. And I think that's important even when it comes to writing down your vision for your life, because at all times, you want to make sure that you're doing everything right now and you're doing everything in the future that will lead you to that end that you expect to have. And that can come from any area of your life. This could be your finances, whether you want to leave things to your children and your grandchildren. This may be from health situations. You may want to leave good, healthy habits for them to follow throughout time itself, maybe eating a certain way, exercising a certain amount of time. Or this could even be something as simple as knowledge or education. You're passing down books, you're passing down teachings, you're passing down words of wisdom that they can use to have better lives as they come up and grow out here into the world. And then last but not least, if you're faith-based, you may want to leave the example of God. You may want your life to reflect, how you want your children and your grandchildren to live and the generations that come after them. But regardless, writing a eulogy is so important because it puts into perspective, once again, the things that you really want to accomplish and the things that you want to leave. And I believe that if you truly have a vision for your life, it starts with you realizing what that vision is going to look like after you've done everything you've done on this earth and you've transitioned into glory. But with that being said, the questions that I have here, okay, is what do you ultimately want to accomplish in life, right? This could be anything. Write it down, anything that comes to mind. You may have 1 page, you may have 2 pages, you may have 10 pages, but regardless, you're writing the stuff down that you want to accomplish. And when you write this stuff down, once again, it puts into perspective what you're really after. And it puts into perspective everything that you're doing in your life right now, because you're able to clearly see the things that you're doing that's going to lead you down that path, and you're able to see everything that you're doing that's not lead you down that path. And then that'll help you plan accordingly and move and remove the stuff that's keeping you from going on a path that you've decided to go down. The second question is, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as a real estate person? Do you want to be remembered as a business owner? Or do you want to be something a little more personal? Do you want to be remembered as someone who loved God and their family? Do you want to be remembered as someone that people could come to? Do you want to be remembered as a happy person, an easygoing person, a confident person? Do you want to be remembered as a speaker that inspired thousands, if not millions of people? Write that stuff down. Write down how you want to be remembered outside of everything that you want to accomplish. And then last but not least, when it comes to this step, the third question is, what steps do you need to take to get to where you want to be? From the first one of everything that you want to accomplish, and then secondly, how do you want to be remembered? What are the things that you need to do in your life right now and in the future to get to that end that you expect to get to? With that being said, we pretty much covered the ending of this point. And the second one is going to be pursue the vision. It's going to come from the second part of the first verse. And it reads, so he may run who reads it. All right. And after you write everything down, now you have to start doing the things. You have to start taking actions towards accomplishing that vision. And that's exactly what this is saying here. You don't just write the thing down and you expect for it to happen, but you actually go forth, you get in the field, you get in the trenches, and you start doing the work that's going to take you to get there, all right? And the point here is that you have to run 100% with the stuff that you created. You have to believe in the vision that you have. You can't be held back by fear. You can't be held back by things that will hinder you from getting there. You have to go 100%. And one of the things that's going to happen, of course, naturally, you're going to run into obstacles. You're going to run into stuff that's going to stop you along the way. But in your path, you have to go forward no matter what. All right. You have to do everything that you can possibly do. And then when things come up that seem like they're too much, that seem overwhelming, you have to depend on God in that situation, because if you do the possible, he'll do the impossible. But it starts with you taking that first step, because if you take one step, God will take two. As you draw close to him, he'll draw close to you. And if you're going down the path that you know you're supposed to go, if you're going down the path that you know he placed in your heart to pursue, he'll make sure that when you come up across these things, that he will equip you to overcome them. All right. But it only happens when you take that step. And when you take those steps continually towards getting to the goals that you're at. Moving along, though, the questions that I have here, first and foremost, is do you pursue the plans that you start? And this is something that is so interesting about my life, because I've come up with so many plans throughout the years to do so many ventures and just petty stuff in general. But regardless of whatever it was, I didn't always pursue those plans. And I mean, they were pretty elaborate, y'all. I've had business plans and stuff that I've wrote down 5, 10, 20 years into the future and never followed them. That's a long story, things, whatever, but long story short, they didn't line up where I ultimately wanted to go. So I had to let those things go. And the question here for you is, do you pursue the plans that you know you're really after, the things that you know you truly want to accomplish? Are you able to go through with those things to the very end? And mind you, plans change, things will change, but if the case that they do, you're supposed to change the steps that go along with the plan, but the plan is ultimately supposed to be the same, because it's going to get you to the same destination. And it's just like going on the map. You may get rerouted a couple times, but at the end of the day, you're going to get to the place that you put in there right before you started. The second question, moving along, is what's the thing that's holding you back if you're not going along with these plans? And for this, some people, it could be fear, it could be lack of resources, it could just be a lack of motivation. But regardless, you got to pinpoint the thing that's holding you back, and you got to work out how you're going to overcome that. So for instance, if it's something related to fear, one of the things, we can use the example of entrepreneurship, all right? Because most people, they work on their jobs, they got a steady stream of income, and usually even if they hate the job, they won't quit the job because they don't think that they can make the same amount of money and still support themselves without having that job that they want to leave so bad. But the thing here is that when every entrepreneur goes on that journey, they have to come up with an action plan on how they're going to generate income and how they're going to replace the salary that they make at their job right now, so that they can no longer work at the place that they hate and start doing the things that they love to do. And you do that with anything in life, right? You find the root of whatever it is that you fear, the root of whatever is holding you back, and then you create practical steps and practical plans and solutions that's going to help you overcome that fear that you have. And I'm telling you that when you have plans and stuff in place, it helps you so much more, and it alleviates at least 80% of the time the fears and the reservations that you may have. So when it comes to that, when it comes to overcoming fear in general, always have a plan to get through. And then last but not least, the third question here is, how can you move forward? How are you able to move forward with the plans that you have? What steps do you need to take once again? And how can you actively walk into those steps to get to where you need to be? Okay, y'all. So the final point of this night, okay, is work until the vision comes. And this is going to come from verse 3. And it reads once again, that for still a vision awaits his appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. And The thing about this here, to sum up this particular verse and this point, is that your vision will not come tomorrow. And the bigger it is, the longer it seems to take place and the longer it seems for it to come to fruition. But that's the reality of life. And honestly, that's a vision worth working towards, because you don't want something that you can accomplish next week, next month, or next year. You want something that's going to take you years or decades to accomplish, something that ultimately would take a lifetime to complete. Because once you get to that lifetime, you truly have fulfillment in knowing that you spent your entire life working towards something that has come to pass. Not only has it benefited you, but it's benefited your family and the community that you're surrounded behind. And it impacted hundreds, if not thousands or millions of people, depending on the scope of your vision. But regardless, this is something that's going to take time. It's going to take steps. It's going to take years of hard work, years of struggle, also years of many successes to get to where you need to be. But the reality of it is that no matter what happens to you, it's going to come to pass if you continue working for it. And that's the thing right there, because sometimes you will get discouraged along this journey, but you got to understand that when the time for it to come, no matter when that is, it's going to come as long as you keep moving forward, as long as you don't give up. So if you're in that situation right now, don't give up on the things that you're doing. And then the last point that I have here specifically is that your progress will not always be consistent, because there will be times where you go faster than you thought you would go. You accomplish far more than you thought you would. And then you go through periods where it doesn't seem like nothing is getting done, nothing is being accomplished, and you're just going in circles. But when those times come, you have to fight through them. You have to endure through them. You have to plan through them. Whenever you get to those situations, go back to what you've seen before. Go back to the original vision that you had and realign yourself with that, or encourage yourself to just keep moving forward, knowing that one day at the time that you set for it to come past, it will come to pass. And this is just simply one of those humps in the road. This is just one of those obstacles that's trying to discourage you from keep moving forward. But I'm telling you, keep moving forward, because the vision will come. It will not delay, as the verse said. All right, y'all. So the last few questions of tonight, the first one is that how patient are you towards accomplishing your goals? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't have patience, there's a good chance that you will burn out and you will get further and further away from your goals. All right. And as somebody who has lived this experience so many times, including with this podcast at times, I can tell you that burnout is real. Discouragement is real. And when those times come, you want to give up completely. But if you're going to get to where you're going to be, if you're going to get to where you want to go, and if you ultimately want to impact the people that you want to impact, you got to keep going, no matter what it is. And the only way that you keep going is through patience, one, and discipline, two. And speaking of which, if you haven't checked out the discipline episode, please be sure to go check that out. It is titled, once again, The Power of Discipline. Put it out last week, and I gave you also practical steps on how to accomplish that. But that's not the topic tonight. Moving on to question number 2. And that is, what can you do to remain consistent? And this kind of comes back to that discipline piece, because there are going to be times where you're going to be motivated, you're going to push forward, and it seems like everything is just rolling. You've gotten into a flow of doing things, and then there are going to be harder times. There are going to be times of drought. There are going to be times where you don't want to get up. There are going to be times where you don't want to work on this stuff. But in those times, you got to keep going. You have to remain consistent. You have to be disciplined, because those are the things that will get you to the goal. You know, motivation, okay, you can look at it as like a flame, your life as a flame, okay? Motivation is simply the gasoline that you pour on there to help spark the flame, and the flame is growing and it's strong and it's bursting everywhere and consuming everything in its path. But at times, that flame starts to die down. But the flame is sustained by the discipline that you have up until you get to that gasoline of motivation once again. All right. So you got to stay consistent, got to take those steps, and you got to accomplish that stuff. And once again, check out the discipline episode if you need help with that. And then the last question is, how can you stay encouraged on this journey? Because as I said before, there are going to be times where you're going to get discouraged. There are going to be times where stuff isn't going to work out and you're not going to be as motivated as you were. But in those times, you have to push yourself. You have to keep going. And you don't want to get up out the bed. You're going to have to roll over out the bed in the morning. when you get ready to go drive to work, all right, you gotta put your foot on the gas to get to work. But regard or whatever it is, you gotta keep moving forward, all right? And all of that comes down to encouragement. How are you gonna get there? In some cases, you may have to go to other people. You may have to go friends that are closest to you to help give you that extra boost that you need to get to where you need to be. But regardless, you got to stay encouraged on this journey. And with that being said, y'all, that pretty much concludes this episode tonight. And if I could sum it up in 3 words, all right, it will be plan, pursue, and persevere. If you want to accomplish something in life, you have to plan for it. If you want to, after you finish planning, you have to pursue it. And then last but not least, when the times get rough, you have to be able to persevere. And that's simply how you get to where you want to be in life. You know, life is simple. Planning is not always as difficult as people make it out to be. And as long as you have things in place, you have the motivation to keep going despite all the things that may or may not come your way, you'll get to where you want to be. But you have to have the vision first. You have to write it down, and you have to consistently take the steps towards completing it. And that's how you have a successful life, all right? But of course, if you need help with all of those things, you can always check out the previous episodes that I uploaded, or you can even reach out to me at brian@thegroundedpodcast.com if you want to talk to me directly. And then last but not least, I wrote a book specifically for that titled Grounded, The Path to Discovering Your Purpose, Building Your Talents, and Getting the Life You Always Desired. And I walk you through that plan and the process on how to plan for your goals and how to pursue them up and fully. All right. But with that being said, I pray that you all got something out of this. And if you did, please be sure to like and follow whatever platform you got to be listening on, and continue to follow the podcast and just be looking forward to more future content. All right. I love each and every one of you. I'll see you all soon. I pray that you have a blessed week. All right. My name is Brian Boyd. I'm signing off. Peace. Hey everyone, Brian here once again. Thank you so much for tuning in to Grounded. If these messages have been a blessing to you, please consider donating at thegroundedpodcast.com/donate. Furthermore, if you're looking for books and journals and other resources that will help improve your life, business, and relationships, please be sure to check those out at thegroundedpodcast.com/store. As always, it's been a blessing. I truly love each and every one of you, and I truly hope to see you all once again very soon. All right?